Okay.
It always makes you cry.
He made my punch list.
And that was our first fight. Time is a flat circle.
Like 2 people are gonna get this.
Ooh. Love kale.
Ew. I want him to crawl to me.
Now that was spicy.
Your Honor, I love him.
Gross! Why choose means you don't choose.
I want a third act breakup because I want him to grovel.
There are exceptions to every rule.
Trust me, I'm a father. Don't worry, Daddy's got you. Welcome back to the Smut Daddy Podcast.
Hey,
Hi,
guys.
everybody.
Hello.
I am your host, Father Lib, aka the Smut Daddy.
And I am your co-host, Sister Britt, and we are just 2 besties that found each other on Bookstagram and can't imagine life without the other.
And today we are joined for a very special bonus epilogue on release day. So everyone needs to give a happy release day to none other than Miss Ashley Warren. Hi.
Hello.
It's awesome to be on with you guys. Yes.
I'm so excited. Since finding, well, I can't even remember. Britt might have found you or you found us. I honestly can't remember. But ever since Pieces of Us, I'm like, she's got to come on this podcast. I need to talk to her about the men that she writes because I'm addicted. And then it just keeps getting better and better. I'm like, I thought that Bubbles was really going to have the cake for me. And then you asked us to beta read your newest release. And I'm like, okay, well, now I don't know really how to rank them because everyone's fighting for the top.
Yes.
Then you drop the surprise on us of what's coming next, your work in progress. I'm just like, okay, well, she's coming for all of the spots for me. So, hi, I am so glad you're here. How are you doing? How is life going leading up to release day? Like, I know this is in the future a little bit, but how you feeling? You feel like you're ready for it? Like you have everything set in place?
I am. So it's sort of crazy because like releasing 3 books in 1 year is a complete roller coaster.
The craziest thing. You authors are insane.
It's so impressive because his missing piece was your debut. So like,
I know.
like running.
So the past few weeks have just been kind of crazy with getting our broken pieces put together and getting it ready for ARC readers, and just today.
Because ARCs technically went out today, right?
I was
like
saying,
a few
it's on my
hours
Kindle
ago.
right now.
And I feel like each time you're still nervous about it. Like, I think back to his missing piece, and I had no idea what I was doing, you guys. I was like flying by the seat of my pants. Like, literally New Year's Eve last year, so December 31st.
Yeah, almost. We're almost coming up on the 1 year.
I opened a Word doc and I started writing his missing piece, and 43 days later, I had that first draft written.
It only took you 43 days for one? That is insanity.
That's
I also
crazy.
just
I know.
love these covers for everyone that's
beautiful.
watching. They are so
Like Sarah Kill Creative,
beautiful.
Adrian Hale suggested her to me, and like I'm buddies with her and Emerson Holt. And like Emerson introduced me to Adrian, and Adrian was like, Sarah Kill's pretty great.
You guys are all Texas, right?
And so finding her was such a stroke of luck, and having her do all 3 books was perfect.
She
They
nailed the
complement
covers.
each other so
and
well.
they only get better. It's not like his missing piece is bad, but it's just like, oh, then you showed us Pieces of Us, and I was like, love it. And then it came to Our Broken Pieces, and I was like, well, we are
I remember getting a little like
Yes.
screenshot from Luna Lemmy, and she was like, not me and Father Lib like freaking out about your cover.
I lost it. The type of secrets that I have to keep, not only for this podcast, but Luna, and then the author work I do,
wouldn't be
I'm
able to
going to
do it.
explode. And that
I
one was
wouldn't be
hard
able to
because
do
I
it.
was like,
Me neither. I'm
like,
terrible at it.
and then that's how Lib and I are always just back and forth, like, we have no one to talk to about this. Okay, I guess we're going to start ranting to each other about how awesome it is. And then we were like picking out all the little details on it, and you nailed it.
But yeah,
so
like with his
good.
missing piece, wrote it in 43 days. And then happened to find my editor on Instagram. Like, I started an author Instagram account towards the end of January, and I had never heard of like ARC readers. I had never heard of beta readers, alpha readers, none of that business. So thinking back on it, like I had some audacity because I wrote that book and My editor was the only person to read it before ARCs went out. And no,
That's
no,
crazy. No
nothing.
beta or
Nothing.
anything.
So
That is
when
insanity
when
to
I
me.
think back on it, the fact that that book still carries like something like a 4.25 on Goodreads, I'm just like,
it has a good rating.
Yeah.
makes me want to cry a little bit.
Especially for a debut. Like, honestly, yeah. Well, I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, there are always the one-offs and stuff, but I feel like a lot of times, like, most debuts are like a 3 to a 4 star just because, you know, it's someone's debut work. But then when you start getting over those 4s and getting like 4.5 and stuff, I mean, your books are 5 stars for me. How does that, like, I don't know. I would feel so accomplished too. I'd be like, well, clearly I nailed it on the first
I mean,
try.
it made me realize, like, one reason I wrote his missing piece was because it's a reverse age gap, right? She's 39.
I was just gonna say that. I love
Yes.
that you do reverse
We
age
do,
gaps. We
because
need more of them.
when I came into romance, so, okay, here's the backstory.
Yeah, let's talk about, like, were you always a reader? Like, did you always like reading growing up? What led you to
So,
romance? Like, what was the
Child
first
of the
stepping
80s.
stones?
I had the little, like, Pizza Hut sticker buttons where you, like, book it.
yes, for
Yes.
book it.
Yes!
Book
So
it.
I loved
Yes.
reading.
And, like,
Yes.
so many books at the library, like, you got a piece of,
Yup.
like the pizza party thing for your individual
So,
size? Yes.
Always,
okay.
like, took advantage of that. And then I loved, like, Sweet Valley High. Read a little bit of, like, the Babysitter's Club. Loved the Boxcar Children.
Yes.
Oh, I
And then-
loved those.
What was this
I
series of
loved
books
them.
where they were tiny people and they lived in the people's house? I can't remember.
know
It'll-
exactly what you're talking about, though. I know exactly what you're
that
talking
book
about.
I loved. But reading was always like fun for me, but I didn't understand why people loved reading until I read The Great Gatsby. That was the book. Yes.
I loved that book. I loved it. We had to
Yeah.
do it for school reading. I'll be
Same.
honest, that's how I found it. But that I remember was a big pivotal moment for me in reading too, like because we read like The Great Gatsby and then we did like Fahrenheit 451 and there was just all of these new stories coming out and I was like, I think I actually really
Yeah.
enjoy this
And
land that we're living
my
in.
brain constantly tries to like figure out problems. I love problem solving. I love like surprises and everything. I like reading like behind the meaning of everything. And my lit teacher that year, it was in 7th grade, and the reason why we read The Great Gatsby was because he was teaching us about symbolism. And the amount of symbolism
Yeah.
in that book drew me in. I'm like, wow, like there's a meaning behind everything in this book. And so I fell in love with
Absolutely.
reading after that.
Did you still dive into like some of those more like what they're considering like classics, or were you like stepping into like trying to find fantasy or like young adult?
I was into like classics and young adult. It was really funny though. Like I tried reading Wuthering Heights my senior year of high school. We had a British literature class.
Not my favorite book, but my brother loves. He doesn't even read, and then he'll be like, "Well, you could read Wuthering Heights." Why would I do that, Tyler? I'm just like, I'm just like, why are we doing this? So I'm so glad
and
you
it was
feel the
hilarious
same.
because I had to pick from a list of books for British literature class and do a report about it, right? So I picked Wuthering Heights, and everyone knew that my Brit Lit teacher's favorite book was Wuthering Heights, and they're like, "Oh, you're such a suck up, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Yeah, so what if I am?"
I feel like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to
So
live up
I
to
read
this.
it and I hated it. And I got up there and I gave my report about how much I hated his favorite book. And the thing of it is like I had good reasons why. You know, I listed off all sorts of stuff. I can barely remember it now. That was like 25 years ago.
You're supporting your stance. I love it.
Literally, though.
But yeah.
But I don't blame you for
I got
not
an A on that
liking
report.
it. But you have balls of steel. That is incredible, first of all, that the teacher was like, okay, like,
Right.
I'm not just going to be biased, but you
Yeah,
have balls
not
of
afraid.
steel, Ashley. The way my anxiety,
There's my
people,
cat.
please yourself.
That's
okay.
me.
I could never. I would probably lie and be like, this
It's so
was
great.
such a good book, changed my
Not
life.
me. You can tell.
So, like, then as you keep reading, are you finding, like, the Nora Roberts and stuff in the beginning? Or did you, like, dive into romance?
The last, like, fiction book that I really remember grabbing onto was Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Kind of a coming-of-age novel, little bit of, like, sexuality exploration and that sort of stuff. And then after that, all throughout my 20s and 30s, I lived for self-help and nutrition books. That's all I read. That's all I read.
Really? I have read a good couple, like, self-help books. I will be honest. My therapist is like, hey, you should probably read this. But those are, like, never what I gravitate towards. So, but I think you're the first that's been on here and said that that's what you
So I read that
towards.
steadily for a good 15, 20 years. And then it wasn't until the end of 2022 that I discovered fanfic.
Okay. Oh, love fanfic. Yeah. Were you doing like AO3? So, what were you reading? What were you finding?
One Direction, Harry Styles, all members of One Direction. So I was.
There are some great.
And I veered towards like the Larry side of fanfic. And some of the romance that is on AO3 is like beyond anything I've seen in traditional deal books. It is freaking good.
Oh, there's no way some of those stories would ever make it, but they are 10 out of 10.
Out of 10.
I feel that way, but I was doing like Twilight. I was doing like Twilight fan fictions before 50 Shades did come, but I was like in there. But that's how I found a bunch of Harry stuff. I was a big Zayn girl. Like, I wasn't a huge directioner, but if I was reading the fanfic, I was definitely like, Zayn. I'm like, what do we think Zayn is up to today? Have you ever done like Hermione fanfics or anything like that?
I've never even read any of the Harry Potters or Twilight.
Ashley.
What?
I can't judge for that because I haven't done that either.
What?
I know.
That is so shocking, though. Not either. Wow, you just stabbed Britt and I both right in the heart in one foul swoop. That's okay. Tell me you've seen the movies.
No.
Neither? You haven't seen any Harry Potters and no Twilight?
I've not even on,
I think I've like made it
TV,
through the first Harry Potter.
ABC Family or whatever it showed on.
I actually think you might be the only person in the world in that category. That is honestly so funny. How do you make it this long? Like, I just feel like I knew about Harry Potter because everyone was beating it into my head at first.
So
because
back
you know what I mean?
20s, like my late 20s, and this is totally me going off topic.
We love it. Please
I
always go off
topic. For like 2-3 years. And like, I paid my bills dealing and playing poker.
Nice.
The lives you've lived in this short amount of time. That is crazy.
I worked on the side at a Barnes & Noble cafe, so I had like an income check because in the real world you need an income check. So I was just a barista at like a Barnes & Noble cafe, and I was there for like one of the Harry Potter releases, and like we were there at midnight making freaking hot cocoa, this and all this kind of junk.
Oh,
and I was just like, these people are crazy. Like, I don't get it.
Step at midnight to read a book.
Now I understand it. Like, if, Liz Tomford released Rewind It Back at Barnes & Noble at midnight, freak yeah, I'd be there. Yeah.
You would be there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd be there with you, girlfriend.
The days I get jealous that I'm in Ohio is when all of these authors are like, I'm in New York City for a midnight release. I'm like, why don't we live there?
Might jump into Ohio to visit. Like, you watch, like, no authors come to Texas whatsoever. Ever.
Really? I thought there was a big convention
like, conventions or events, but, like, no, like, little signings or anything.
But they're just, like, they're not doing, like, signings. Yeah. Oh,
but
that's a bummer.
I got off track. So, fanfic.
That's okay.
We're going to do that a million times because my brain is
love
like,
fanfic. Those are my favorite tangents.
Fanfic. Then I started seeing stuff popping up for the Twisted series from Anna Huang on my feed. And I was like, okay, well, I'm like reading romance essentially on my phone on AO3. Like, let's give it a go. So
I
love
really
it.
liked that series. I know.
I own it. I just still haven't gotten to it.
Yeah,
I still
I know
want to. I just haven't.
everyone has their opinions about everything, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, especially book one, brother's best friend, a little
Right?
bit of
Like,
the drama,
yeah.
and like the twist at the end, and then he has to grovel to get her
We love
back
the
in
grovel.
London. I'm like, hello. I think she wrote this
Yep.
book for Libby. I was like convinced.
And-
I was like, okay. Did you read them all in one foul like
Yes.
swoop? Were they already
So,
out?
I read the first book in like 2 days, and I was like, this is pretty good. So I went on Amazon and bought the next, like the
So
rest
good.
of the series, and I was done with that within a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I kind of
Yes.
love this.
Now what?
Which I felt like that series got even better. Like for me, I loved all of the books, but like
But they do get better each time, because then you go to the princess bodyguard, and then you get to the other
Yep.
side of the best friend's brother, and then when you end with the age gap Christian, and he's like, by the
Christian
way,
Harper,
I stalked
like,
you, and you live in my hotel.
He was it for me. He was it. I was like,
You can't tell me that Christian Grey did not have just a teeny little
Yeah.
play in her mind with the way that man was wrote, because I loved it. And I don't normally go for age gaps, but I liked their book, and I'm glad that it built
Yes,
up to them. It
totally.
made sense.
and so then, of course, because the algorithm is what the algorithm is, started seeing more books popping up.
It does its
And-
job.
So
Yeah.
I started seeing all this stuff about haunting Adeline, and I was like, okay, I'll
What
give
a
that go.
jump! Whoa, that is.
That's a hard left turn.
You went from Anna Huang to hunting and haunting Adeline. That is crazier than my Vi Keelan to Rena Kent. That is
Yes.
an insane jump, Ashley.
And this
Did
is,
you
like,
enjoy?
really-
Did you read
I
triggers, or did
just
you just jump
jumped
in
in.
blind?
Like I do not have triggers.
Okay.
Like, well, there was one.
That's good. No,
I
that's
think
good.
my only trigger, the only trope that I won't read really is like a stepbrother situation. And I can't get past the family dynamic on that. That's pretty much.
We do not appreciate family fucking
Like,
in the Smut
you're
Daddy
not
household.
blood related.
I don't
but
like it
it's
either.
like,
Like, I know, but it's like, why'd you live together
Yeah.
until you were 18 and then decide to get it on? Why are we doing that? I know, I try not to yuck yums, but I agree. Like, I really do have a hard time with that one. If they're like older and out of the house, like, whatever, so be
Yeah,
it. But
that's-
when they grow
that-
up
I can't do
together,
it.
I'm like, there was no one else in the whole world in your whole school population that you wanted to sleep with besides your stepsister?
there's really no one
I
else.
just like, what? Like, I would literally sleep with anybody else
Exactly,
before
exactly.
a stepbrother.
But like, yeah, totally jumped into that.
So
Loved
did you
it.
enjoy hunting?
Absolutely loved it. And I will tell
Yeah.
you, like, the one scene that like totally sticks out in my mind. There's always like one scene from all of my favorite books that like sticks out, and it was the belt.
Is it the belt?
The belt.
I haven't read them because I'm scared, but I feel like also
It's
I
all
have
over.
read them
Yeah.
because like TikTok, you know, you can get like a whole
It's
book.
been such a long
So,
time since I
like-
have read them, but I'm like, I don't think I have the
Yeah.
capacity to read them
Like,
again, though, to
he-
refresh my mind.
She's like, you know, kneeling on the ground. He takes his belt off and like puts it around her neck, and I'm like, yes, you go.
Yeah. Oh, walk her like a dog. I would be kind of here for that.
Was this in the woods, or
I
am I
want to
getting
say it was
confused?
like by his car or something. I don't know. I can't really remember.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I, think you're right. Okay.
I have heard the belt, and then a lot of people are always like, yeah,
That
that
was
gun
a little weird.
in her was
My
something great.
I
I
was
remember my
like,
mom read those.
Would that even be comfortable? Like, that would not even like do anything. I mean, it is what it is.
I think it would just be like cold. That's always what I
Yeah.
think. I'm like, I bet you that
Yeah.
barrel is cold. So, what did you jump to after dark,
So,
crazy territory?
After that, so I read those books in the month of April, and from April
Okay.
until the end of December, I read 263 books.
That's what
Wow.
I'm talking about. That's
Like,
my
I
type
could
of
finish
reading
a
right there.
500-page book on a Saturday morning.
Same. I love it. I think it's something about our brains. We just like our brains are always like, look at all of it around. So then when we're reading
Yep.
something, we're like, focus on one
And,
thing.
Like throughout everything, like I don't have like super favorite tropes or anything like that. I mean, if you look at my top shelf, which is like my favorites, I have like the Twisted series. I have Chestnut Springs. Absolutely adore that series because that was the first time where I truly understood what an interconnected series like looked like. And
Yes.
her writing was
Yeah, she did
such
that
an
good.
inspiration for me, like for writing my books. Like I had to keep like a 3-page Word document of like a timeline so I could jump a little bit back and forth and keep track of people's ages and everything else. And so I love that series. And then like the Windy City series, that might be my top.
I waited so long to read it, and it's so good. But I'm also glad I waited because the last 2 books are like right up my alley.
Yes, and it's gonna be like I'm probably gonna cry tremendously just reading all of Rio's book because like we've been waiting for it, and then
I know.
to know
I'm
that it's like
excited.
the end of the series, like it's just gonna be
Excited though too to just see what like
Yes.
she comes up with next. Like you know what I mean? I wonder if that's like pressure on her, but I am excited as someone that like it's not like it's a bad series for me. It's just like it's not. I waited so long to read it. I just don't think it's up there
I'm
with
still
everything else.
banking on a holiday Monty
I wish.
book. I am manifesting
manifest it with
I know
you.
she says it's done after Rio, and I do understand that, but I'm gonna manifest.
Maybe
that
it'll be
there's
like a
holiday
bonus
novella, something.
Yeah,
in there.
like a
Yes.
bonus or something like that.
charity novella, something for Monty.
I know,
Justice
I
for
know.
Monty,
Like
come on.
it's kind of like the same thing with Harvey and Chestnut Springs. Like, we just fell in love with those little side characters and like wanting to see their little happy
They're so
story
good.
would just be awesome.
Well, she teed it up so well and play along with is Reese her name? I feel like Reese, was that her name? Like with a little
you're
workplace
asking the
enemies to
wrong-
lovers.
Which
You're
one?
asking the wrong girl. I just can't remember.
and play along
Oh,
with
yes.
Monty and the
Yes.
new female head. Of
I think so, yes.
Reese, right?
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
feel
workplace
like,
enemies to
I'm
lovers
like,
sounds great.
I feel like you laid such great groundwork. Like, why would you not like
Yep.
capitalize on that? Is that what I'm trying
Oh,
to say?
yes.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on,
Maybe
do
she
it.
just needs a
Maybe.
break and then she'll come back.
Yeah.
So while you're reading all of these, are you starting to realize in your head that you have
Yeah,
characters that need to come out of your brain?
It's so hard to find a reverse age gap with an older FMC.
I've only read a couple before you. Vanessa Vale does a couple of them, but a lot of time they are
And-
not done.
Yeah, I think the only couple that I had read was Gianna Darling, because the first one in The Fallen Men is
Oh, yeah,
reverse age gap, and then Emily Rath has one in her Pucking Wild is a reverse. But I think those are the only two I could think of before I got
Yeah.
his missing piece arc from
And
you,
then
Ashley. So
Just
there
the
was more
fact that
need for
we
him.
need
Absolutely.
FMCs that are older, period. You know, we're all going to age gracefully.
Yes, and I think because I was younger, obviously,
Yeah.
I know I'm still young, I know that, but I just like didn't realize because I've heard those topics before. Like, I wish they were older, like in their 30s and like 40s, and then now that I'm gonna almost into my 30s, I'm like, why aren't there more people in their 30s being broke? I'm just like, we are not all 22 anymore. I'm like, I never got it until now. You know who does a great job with older characters always? Melanie Moreland. Almost all of her characters, and they have whole series where they're all older. They're all finding love in their 40s,
Nice.
and it's really great. I recommend her
I'll
if
have
you're
to
overlooking
add those to my
to read
TBR,
something that
because I want to support authors that are doing it too, because I mean, we're all
Yeah.
aging, and the people that are, you know, in their 20s, early 30s now, I don't mind reading a college romance, but can I fully relate to that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
right.
Sometimes I really struggle with them. Some I feel like, oh my God, you are so young. And some I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine. It's
Yes,
no
I think
problem, but-
sometimes it's just like how it's wrote. It's like, okay, well, I can kind of place them also like older. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I find myself doing that. Like, no, they're not. They're
Yeah.
literally they're not in high school. They're just getting their masters in college. So you're going. Like, let's dive into it. So like, who came to you first for
Who came
his
first
missing piece?
was probably Audrey. There's a lot of Audrey, or there's a lot of me in Audrey. Just like being let down by love and being older and being like, how do I start over again? I just turned 44. I am single. I've been single for 5 years. And little known fact, like that opening chapter where she's broken up with after 3 years with a guy over FaceTime, that was a real event.
No.
Yes.
But how therapeutic for you.
I was just
like,
saying, did that
not
help
to,
you
Yes,
get that
I'm
written out?
tremendously, because it was like I got to take that event, and it happened at the worst time too. It was like during the pandemic. So
Oh
yeah,
my
like
gosh, I'm so
literally
sorry.
8
What a
a.m.
dick
on a Monday
move.
morning. I don't.
Let's call him out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like,
I hope
let's
he never
blast
reads the
him.
book or finds out. Like, I hope that I'm like lost out of it.
I hope he does, and then he's like, maybe he'll read it and be like,
Yeah.
damn, that was harsh. Not on, like, your
Yeah.
fault. Like, he was harsh. But, so you did think it was, like, therapeutic for you to, like, get that
Definitely,
part of your
because
story
I
out
got
to the
to
world.
take that event and I got to like mold it into a happily ever after. And I think that's why I wrote the book so quickly, was because I had written like a lot of my hopes and dreams in a man into Jax. So his character just came so easily for me. Like the way he communicates and the way he always makes Audrey feel secure, and you know, the fact that he doesn't care how old she is, and you know, he's just proud to be with her and he fights for her, and that just came so easily.
I mean,
know.
what more can you ask for? It's just, like, putting her on
But in
that
a healthy
pedestal.
way. Like he still, you know, made sure that
Yes.
she went after her dreams
absolutely.
and supported her in her things, and still did his own thing. So that book just kind of poured out of me. And when I write, it doesn't, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
if I've written 3 books in 1 year, well, technically like 3.3 books, because I'm like a third of the way through Dark Cowboy. Like, I
I'm
know.
very excited
and
for the Dark Cowboy, I won't
Yes.
lie. I have such a hard time reining it in. I'm like, you
I
gotta
have a
chill,
hard time
Lib.
chilling.
You really gotta chill for
So,
like 1 second.
one thing as an author, like I, you know, dropped his missing piece, was completely ecstatic with the feedback on that. Just so many women saying that Audrey was relatable, and then people saying, thank God there was like an older FMC, and like Jax is such a cinnamon roll, love him to death. So I took that momentum and I went straight into Pieces of Us. I pretty much started writing that book as soon as I sent it off to my editor, his missing piece. Dove into that, and then like completing Our Broken Pieces. It's just been getting a lot of my life experiences out and being able to get these characters out of my mind. And I am a complete pantser, so I do not plot anything. Like my writing method, start with a playlist.
Oh, that's,
Yes.
for me, everything. I love a good vibe
So
when
I'll
it comes
start
to
like
music.
piecing together a playlist of like vibe and songs and lyrics that like stick out to me. And once I have like the playlist going, then I'll go on Pinterest and I'll start like grabbing pictures, like the vibe that I want in my head. And then I'm like, okay, so I have this musical vibe, I have this visual vibe. What do I think the tropes are going to be? So I'll come up with my trope list, and then I just start writing. And for me, it's like, it's chronological.
incredible.
So, you know, you'll hear authors say a lot like, oh, I jump around, or I'll write a scene and then I'll come back to it. Especially when it comes to smut scenes, they'll like write them 2 months before they get to it in their book. And I can't do that. Like in my brain, I'm just like, well, what if something happens? And then,
Yeah. And then, like, what's going to come right after? That's always what I want to know, too. I'm like, what's now? So, did you think it was harder to write Pieces of Us? I mean, I know there's pieces of you in all of your books, but did you think it flowed as easy, or did you think you had a harder time with it, especially because of the tropes?
Jax is, like, the man that I know that, like, my heart needs, where Link is the man that I wish I had when I was pregnant. That man just, like, taking care of me. And loving me.
Because he nailed it. He knocked
Yes.
it out of the park. Oh my gosh.
Obsessed with Pretty Boy.
know.
I just want to love him forever. I wish I'd do anything
I
for
know.
him to call me
I know.
Bubbles, honestly. I fell hard for him. And I love accidental pregnancies, like Secret Baby. And so sometimes I feel like it's hard to break my list of what I like. And when we were beta reading this, I was like, oh shit. I texted Britt and I was like, I'm honestly not sure what to do right now. My brain is malfunctioning by how amazing
He's the
he is.
sweetest.
And then for like Britt to like it though too.
I
like,
did. I was
I know.
nervous going into that beta. I'm not going to lie. And I just kept reading and I was just like, oh my God.
It just kept getting better and better and better. I was like, what do you mean
I
that
know.
this is over? I think that's what I added as my last
Yeah.
beta comment. I was like, no.
Yep.
Like, there's actually more.
I mean, you did such a good job, though, of like, I would have like a moment of like, really, Melanie? But like, then you would be like, really, Melanie? And I was like, yes. You hit all the
Link had
marks
to
on
fight
that book.
for
I
it.
loved it. It's one of my all-time favorite accidental pregnancy books. People
Yeah.
want one.
Aw.
I'm like, oh, I got one.
Yes.
I'm gonna like it.
Yes.
They-
So good. Who was harder in that? Do you think it was him or do you think it was her because of like you knew what you would
I
want
think-
when you were pregnant? But did you think it was
I think
harder
it
to
was
tap
harder
into her?
to tap into her. And for that book too, it kind of has felt throughout the whole series where each book gets a little bit harder just because you're gaining a little bit more followers and you're getting noticed a little bit more.
Yeah.
And people are like, I can't wait for this person's book and I can't wait for the next one. And like you thrive off of that as an author, but also too, it's a
But
little
then
bit
it's
scary.
probably scary.
Yeah, those
The pressure.
expectations.
I'm sure it
Yeah,
adds
a
pressure
little
to
bit.
you guys.
And it's a good pressure though.
I try not to do it, but
No.
then I'm also really bad about. I'll be like, I cannot wait. Like I literally bullied an author
Yes.
into writing a character, a whole book, because I could
I
not
watched
stop
that
talking
episode,
about him.
Lena.
So I do feel bad. Like it's the way in our like in the DMs, she will be like, "You really did bully me." I'm like, I
You're
know,
like,
and
"Sorry, not
I'm
sorry."
sorry, but also like. Great.
You're welcome.
I'm like, greatness is coming from you though. Like I feel like I would never pressure an author, not that it's pressure, but I would never hype them up if I
Right.
didn't think you guys could write it. You know what I mean? Like I think us as readers also, we don't want to be let down. So that's where I feel like where I do probably need to step back and be like, let them write what they want. But I'm like,
And
you
the
will
thing of
write
it
this
is-
character. Do you hear me?
Like, even though it adds pressure, it also drives us. Like, I have like a few readers that
Yeah.
ever since his missing piece, they've been like, please tell me Marcus has a story coming. I need Marcus's book.
You're
I'm
like,
like,
by the way.
just hold on.
You're like, where's
hold on."
Marcus? You're like, we have
Right.
another
We still
story
need
in
to get there.
between
There's still
them.
that story that needs to build up between those two. But it added pressure in a good way because it's like I want to write the best book for me first. Like I want to write the story that I want to give those characters, but I also
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
make that handful of readers feel like I cared that they wanted that book. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Do you feel like he was the most pressure since people have been looking
Yeah.
for him the longest?
And like my first
Yeah.
two books,
Yeah.
very realistic, very much like all of this happens in real life. Whereas the third book, I just wanted to have a little bit more fun, and it kind of it
It
went
was a
off
lot
the
of
rails a little bit towards the end. But it came out the story that I think was meant to be their story. They needed to be a little bit more outlandish. I needed Marcus to have like some hidden things about himself, and I needed both of them to like go through a crap ton of stuff just so that their backstory of their character came out a little bit more and they could heal throughout the book through each other.
yeah.
You did a great job with them. I'm not always the biggest fan of Friends to Lovers, and I felt like
Yeah.
you did them such
So
good justice.
good.
Like they were so well paired and matched, and even though they'd been best friends for so long, like you could just feel the love and
I
then
mean,
the
who
shift.
doesn't-
Like you knew it was always there, but like it was just beautiful.
There's
like
something about like friends entering into like the convenience trope too, where I'm
Yes.
just like, why is it so good? Because they've known each
Yep.
other for so long. Like, so we're gonna timestamp it for everyone. So we're gonna dive into spoilers. We're gonna talk about it. Anything you want to give about Our Broken Pieces? Because I want to know. Because he's interesting. He has to have
Yes.
a connection to be in love. Like, did you know
No.
from book one that that's how you wanted to lead him, or was he molded?
He was kind of molded throughout the
series?
Like, I knew he was the grump of the group from book one, just because, like, I had, you know, normal, sensible Jax, and then I had goofball Link, and so I needed that, like, contrast to those two, so I needed the broody guy. So I always knew he was going to be, like, grumpy, and one thing I wanted to give him throughout Our Broken Pieces is the fact that, like, he's really not a grump. He's just guarded.
Yeah, he just has
like,
walls
we all
up.
have walls up. And the fact that I got to shape him as demisexual, like, giving him that facet, like, that kind of helps explain his walls too. Like, throughout the first two books, I mean, you never saw him really talk to anybody except for one girl in Jamaica.
Broke his heart.
And so
it broke his heart. I was like, why would you do that to him, Ashley? I was like, I was reading, I was like, why would you do that? I mean, I like where it went, but I was like, don't you hurt him. I always stick up for the grumps and the mean assholes. I think that's why I bully authors into writing them. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to just like leave him alone? He needs love. I can fix him. It's always the guy that I love the most where I'm like, I can fix him.
But yeah. So
did you know that you wanted the friendship to play like a big role before the demisexual, or did they kind of play off each other at the same, like you knew?
I feel like that's why it pairs so well together, because they had formed
like
that
I wanted them to be like the bonded pair of the group, that where they just like meshed so well as friends that you never really saw the love interest coming. So, you know, bringing them together in the first two books, and just the way they kind of meet in the epilogue or towards the end of his missing piece, I just love the way that they met. And then I love, you know, the small growing interactions throughout Pieces of Us, and then to have them even more ingrained in each other's lives in Our Broken Pieces before all the hubbub happens. I think that was important too.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you like ribbons? Me, I'm like, do you have a thing for ribbons? Did Christian Grey play a part because of ties to ribbons? I just love the ribbon. I'm like, why don't more people write about ribbon?
Ribbon comes a little bit from personal experiences.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a kinky one over here. No, I love it. But I like the small details that you add into your covers. Yes. Those are the things that, like, that's why Lim and I, we were going crazy. We were like, where do you think this is going to play in? Because the other cover has bubbles. Then we have the puzzle piece. I'm just like, where is it? And then you did. We got it. And I loved the buildup. Now, I didn't read. I was a little late on my beta, so I didn't read what you changed. But I got the play-by-play from Britt. Will you talk to us about that? Will you talk about that alternate part at first? Also, I would have been fine with it. But that's a Libby.
So to try to be kind of vague, in the beginning of Our Broken Pieces, we kind of see where the two of them are coming from. So Gigi's been with Lewis since like the first night that Link and Melanie met. So I had to give the backstory on that. And then I had to kind of shape Marcus to be a little bit more secretive than we really knew. And then also too, because he is demisexual but not ace, I needed to give him that sexual factor, which we didn't see out of him through either first two books. So giving him that like underlying relationship or situationship that he had been in for the past 2 years behind the scenes. Originally, I had him and his situationship sleep together in the beginning of the book.
I didn't get to read it, but I'm like, would have ate that out. But I do like those type of, like, I feel like
I know. Having heart palpitations.
She's like typing comments furiously.
There were multiple pieces, not just that one, and I'm like, oh my god. Type enter. And then I'm reading. I'm like, type enter. And I'm reading. I'm like,
I feel like
I am overheating. Right
but
now.
It makes sense for you because, like, I feel like a lot of the books that I do like I enjoy T.L. Swan, but you know you're getting like men that need to grovel and that like have probably been sleeping around, and so
and the thing of it is like I know, and like the thing of it is like at that point, there was no concept of Marcus and Gigi being a couple, or even like them looking at each other that way. So it was
Yeah.
still safe in a sense, but what Britt and I kind of
Yeah.
talked about was, you guys are the perfect example. Britt, not about it, gave her the ick, but you, Father Lib, you're like, hey, bring it if it's smut.
I'm like, he's fine. He's allowed to sleep with whoever he wants before they sleep
But
together.
for me,
We've all done
I
something
know.
probably
I know.
before we found someone
but
else.
like for me, I wanted to make sure that the readers who did have an ick for it stuck with the story, because if they never knew that was in there,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't affect anything. But
Yeah, it's not like what you
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
took anything away. Like when I was reading it after, like Britt and I were talking about it, I was just like, well, everything is still perfect. It's still great. But I also remember leaving a comment like, I would like to read that.
I can send you.
Just like a little bonus scene. But I do think that with something like that, it is like a
Yeah.
bigger split. You know what I mean? Like there are people who will be like, oh, I hate this trope or that trope. But I do think there are people who would have been like, why are we doing this when
Right.
they're not the end game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
where you were coming from. It took nothing away. The story is still fantastic.
I
with what
totally would have
wrote.
respected if you said, thanks for the feedback,
Fuck
Britt, but we're
off,
keeping
Britt.
it.
I'd be like,
I can't keep this
it
to
was
myself.
a very vague scene. Like, it basically was like,
Yeah.
I think I used the words, and then I sunk into her, and then it fade to black. So I could have been like, you know what, Britt, I'm gonna go even harder, and I'm gonna like complete the whole smeg scene.
Yeah.
You're like, let's get like some words in there like licking and all of the above for that scene. I would have been like, yes! My comments would have been like, yes, I'm swooning. I literally can't stop.
Well, and then you had the ribbon in there and you had pieces in there, and I was like, pieces
Yep.
are so important to your books. Like, it just, like, I couldn't.
I know.
I was
like,
having a freaking meltdown, you
was.
guys.
I
I
was
just, because I got to see her comments,
Yeah.
even though you changed it. And so I was reading it, of course, like, kind of knowing, but haven't read it. And then you're like, and then the comments under it where you'd be like, I fixed it, Brittany. And I'm just like, wow, we were getting some emotions out of Britt
But
today.
that's what I love about like having you guys as beta readers. I mean, it makes me realize, like if his missing piece was already as good as I feel that book is, I love that book to pieces, no pun intended. Imagine what it could have been if I had alpha and beta readers.
Yeah. But like it is a testament of just how good your
Yeah.
writing can stand on its own.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would be
I-
proud of that.
I
that
feel like
only
honestly,
your editor read it first.
Very rarely do I, like when we've been beta reading through, am I making a comment like this does not make sense? You know what I mean? Something like the flow was off or things like that. A lot of times, sometimes I feel like I have messaged Britt before and been like, am I doing enough? Like I feel like I read 100 chapters in a good way and I didn't need to
Yeah.
give any criticism. I'm like, did you give criticism on any of them? Or are we just like rocking and rolling because
No.
your writing is so good?
That means a lot
Yes.
because this is a
It's so
completely
easy
new
to
hobby
find
for me.
yourself just like immersed into it.
Which is just crazy too that all of it happened this year. Like
Yeah.
it's just like wow. Wow.
I gotta
wow,
ask,
wow.
was Cinderella your favorite Disney
No,
movie
it
growing
was
up?
Belle, but
No?
I felt like Belle
Okay.
was too bookish. I
Like,
feel
too
like
on the nose.
Gigi would
Yeah.
have tied off with Cinderella and like connected with her more because Cinderella grew up with those stepsisters and she was like, put out and she wasn't part of the family and like she, had to do her own thing to get out.
Yeah.
So I feel like she could have related to Cinderella a little bit more.
I'm sorry, I was giggling
Yeah.
because I was remembering my beta comments in that part where I'm like, where the fuck is Mulan? If we're just dropping people's favorite movies,
Yep.
where's Mulan? And then our other friend Vesper is always like, Renee, she's always like, that's not a real princess. Okay.
Oh, girl.
Well, let's fight about it then. But
she
that-
chose violence.
She
that
chose
day.
violence that day. I'm like, well, let's fight about it. But then also it's funny though, just a random side note, when you think about like your favorite Disney princess growing up and then you're reading now. I love fantasy and girls
Yeah.
that are going to get the job done. and will step up to the plate, and that all goes back to Milan. So I'm like, where is it? Every time you brought up Cinderella, I was like, where is Mulan? I don't understand.
And then I'm over here loving my life.
Yeah, and then
Cinderella
Britt's
was
like,
my
I didn't even
favorite.
know that.
It's like, oh my gosh. I know. That's why I was being such a little brat in the comments, because I was like, why are you pleasing her and not me, Ashley? So, I can't believe we're leaving this world of the ladies of Back Bay.
I know.
I don't want to leave it. What do I have to do to bully you to keep going? I'm like, what do Britt and I have to do to keep It's possible?
It's really funny. I made a post today, and I was like, 2 weeks until the final, the final question mark installment of the Ladies of Back Bay series.
Yeah. So tell us all what that question mark meant.
Since this will air on release, I'm not afraid to talk about this because arcs will have already been gone through and everything like that. The second epilogue in Our Broken Pieces jumps ahead 14 years, and it brings us the story of Link and Melanie's son, Asher.
Because I think that was in our copy, like our beta
was.
copy. So I wasn't sure if you were leaving that in, because some people will do like 7 years later, and then they'll be like 14, or like they'll have 2.
Yes.
So that's exciting when it's a little bonus.
That, I don't know if it's going to be 5 books because there are 5 children, but I know it specifically what Asher, Millie, and Adam's stories are going to be.
I'm so excited. I love second gen.
I love a good
for 'em.
I love second gen as well. Did you know going in, or did it take until you were getting to the end, like, wait, there's
I think
literally
I
more to be
started
had
thinking
here?
about second gen when I was writing the epilogue for Pieces of Us. With Link and Melanie having 3 kids,
You were
I
like,
started thinking about
wait.
like old Jax with like his glasses, and like old Marcus. Yes, like
Hot. I'm like, wait, that's hot.
definitely.
I'd love to see some gruff, older Marcus. I mean, like, obviously older than now, but like, I just feel like he'll have a lot to say
Yes.
about his child.
Okay, I have a question about a story that you put out maybe a month ago now. Gosh, time goes so fast. I don't know when it was, but you were talking about other books, or if people have read them, and I've only read one recently, and so I'm hoping you're going to do it in the second gen. Are you doing Reformed
Yes.
Playgirl
So-
stories? Yes.
I've only read like maybe 3 of those in my whole reading career.
I
and
just read my first one, Trusting the Fall, Emmy's
Yep.
beta that I read. That's the first one.
And mine was like-
and it's not even out, so I don't
Mine
even
was
know
like
any
a
that are out
bully
to say.
romance
Oh,
too,
dang.
like a reformed playgirl bully romance, but that was like 2020, 2021. Like, it's been years, so that just made me very
I don't mind
excited.
gushing about their little book. Like, sorry, fellow Lib, but Dark Cowboy is staying very like in its box right now. But
Okay.
like, I might give you a few tidbits before we're through. But
That's okay. Don't worry, I'm always in your DMs anyway. I'll be like, I thought that I was doing your next content pull every day. I'm like, where are you writing? How do I
many
break
words
into your
do you
house? I'm like, did you write any spice today?
Right?
With a cowboy?
so Asher's book, first of all, it's hockey. I have wanted to write a hockey romance like since the beginning. I just felt like in the friend group for the Ladies of Back Bay, none of them, like, even though Link was in marketing with the Bruins, none of them could have been hockey players.
Yeah.
Asher is a college hockey player. It is going to be older sister's best friend. It is going to be reformed playgirl. It's going to be
Love.
boy obsessed.
Love.
And then it's also, there's going to be the term good boy used a lot. Like, he might have to crawl to her.
Yes! I'm like, you don't get to drop good boy and not have them crawl to me, Ashley. I need him on his hands and knees,
like,
please.
I feel like in that, and this, I don't know if I'm going to tell you to cut this or not, but like, one of the micro tropes will probably be pegging.
I love it. Eat
Love
it
it.
up every time. Honestly, I wish more people wrote hanging into their
Yes.
stuff.
So I
good.
think that
So
book will be
good.
really, really fun to write. And because it's so off kilter from usual tropes and everything else. I think it'll kind of bring me back to how I felt writing His Missing Piece. And I think their story is just going to pour out of me.
Yeah.
I go crazy for a man with long hair and a man with a man bun. Like, I go crazy for it.
Ooh.
So
Yes,
he has a man bun.
I'm like, you are talking right
Yes.
up Britt's alley.
You
For
are.
Cassian
So
love.
I think that book will be pretty easy
My
to write.
baby.
Need all of that and a whole Dark Cowboy series
So
next
Dark
year.
Cowboy is
No
going to be a
exception.
standalone.
I was gonna say, is this
Dark Cowboy is going to
2025?
be a standalone.
I know.
I know.
She thinks that, folks. What she doesn't know is that Father Lib has a whole plan in her head. I'm like, you
know.
drop one side character, and I'm going to be like,
I know.
Ashley? I'm just excited that you're doing it. I really, everyone knows I go
Well,
kind of
the
feral
thing
for
of
a
it
cowboy. So when you were
It
like,
is
by the way,
so different from anything I have written so far. Like, so far out
Yeah.
of the ballpark. And one comment, so right now I have the first 30%. With alpha readers, Miss Brittany is one of them. But
I know.
one comment was, this is completely different than any other Dark Cowboy I've ever read before. Like,
love.
yes.
High compliment,
yes.
right?
And just being 30% of the way in, there's two of them that have made it to the end so far. And the amount of capital letters and the amount of wait what, like, and the word shook and like that can't be, like, so
Shooketh.
like the vibe is there, and there's already a couple little parts where I might make adjustments on a character and then expand a scene. But with Dark Cowboy, what I'm loving is I'm actually going through every step of the process with this book, down
Yeah.
to like a title reveal. Like, I have not revealed the title yet.
I'll be honest, I'm not a very good
Yeah.
alpha reader. I'll be straight up. People ask, and I'm like, I'm way better at beta reading because I also,
Yeah.
because the way my brain works, that's how I started doing all these content pulls. As I'm like, this
Yeah.
song is playing while I'm reading this, so you need to be marketing it with that song and use this crap. Like, as I just did for our Broken Pieces, the content pull, my brain was like rapid firing. I know when I sent it to you, you were like, what the fuck? This is 7 pages. I was like, well, I thought we were marketing, which I know it was good, but I just feel like that's where I thrive because, like, in alpha,
Right.
it's not time for that, and my brain is like, we should be doing this and marketing it like this, and you should make
You're
this
like,
graphic.
wait, we
So
need to
then
make
when I like send
75
you my content
reels.
pool, yes, and so then like when I like send out the content pool, and then you're like, this is perfect, and the
Yeah.
next day you did like the first thing,
Nailed
I was
it.
like, nailed it, Libby, you nailed it.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Dark Cowboy, I'm able to like take every step with this book. So I have a title release date, I have a blurb release date, I have a trope reveal date. Luna and I sent her
That's so
a reverse
exciting.
timeline of what we're doing with this book.
Yes. Well, I saw like because we have calendars for everyone, and then I saw your calendar, and I was like,
Yeah.
we got some reveals. We got reveals going on, but I love it. I think it's so fun, and it helps tease it more, helps get everyone more like hyped up and involved. Like, oh, so we got the
Yeah.
title. Like, what are the tropes going to be? And I think it's such a fun process.
Especially since it's a
Yes,
standalone as
yes.
it stands now.
Yes.
I think that's the smartest way
And
to be going about it.
Yeah.
With how I feel
agree.
about this book and the amount of time and effort that I'm putting in, like, I'm trying to use everything I've learned from the previous 3 books, and just the fact that my writing, the way that I feel reading back this story so far, I'm like, maybe I should be a dark romance writer. I don't know.
Oh. And is it triggering like more ideas now, or like I know you still want to write like the second gen and saying contemporary, but do you think that there will in the future be
Yeah.
more dark
I already
romance?
have like an Irish mafia stripper story in my head.
You're talking to the right girl for
I've
Mafia, let me
I've
tell
already
you.
kind of teased a poker book.
Ooh, that would be so cool with your hit, like
Yeah.
just because you know
Yeah.
so much in your knowledge
Yes.
and your history. I mean, I'm sure
But for
you
that
have crazy
one,
stories.
So I've teased
Yes.
it a little bit. I've since taken down the teasers on that one. I do believe that it is coming in the future. And that will be a darker one, but that'll be one where I don't know if the story stands as I see it in my brain right now. it will not be categorized as a
Yeah.
romance. Yeah.
Okay. Just because, like, there's just
The
not
ending?
much sex coming
There's
into
gonna be a
play,
lot of
or
sex. It's gonna be MMF. And
I'm here, folks. Well, so far, I'm
there will
honestly
be
liking all of that.
lots
But,
of
like,
swords
do you think it's
crossing and
the
everything
ending?
else in that book?
There's no happily ever after, and that's why you can't say romance? Oh, you're straight to my heart. A knife just went in.
Why can't they all coexist? You can even take one of the M's out. I'm fine with that. Like, at the end, you can kill them off. But I think there should be a happily ever. Me, I'll be like, you don't even have to write a why choose. You can just write them all fucking.
Jules, Rome, and Spencer. Jules and Rome are married, and they go around to casinos around the world, and they basically run poker tables. So they go in, like, they're not a couple, like, they don't know each other, and they work together to take down, like, large money poker games.
Love.
Okay.
Yes.
They're a hustler.
So then Spencer comes into the mix. And starts playing poker with them and, like, meets them at a poker game, and they end up going back and having a crazy night, and he
Obsessed with
becomes
both of them?
fairly obsessed. Rome falls in love.
I'm here for it.
And
So, I'm like,
Spencer becomes obsessed. I feel like that book, if that book does happen, it won't be until the beginning of, like, 2026.
yeah, it's far removed. You could really come
Yeah.
back and dig it up for their brain. That's exciting, though, that you're able to plan so many things out and
Yeah.
you do have
And
all
then-
these ideas. Sometimes I feel like authors have to stick to, like, just the one, what they're doing, you know, like, right now. Like, they might know what's next, but they can't keep, like, the plotting or anything going. So that is crazy. Your
And then
brain is incredible.
There's another book that I want to write as, like, a standalone based on...
Love
I
standalones.
know.
Can I just say that really quick? Like, sometimes I don't,
do
it's
too.
not like I'm hating on series because I'm a small town queen. Like, I love to live there. But there's something about a standalone. Like, one of my favorite books of all time, Dr. Stanton, standalone. There's no more. You just go. I just love it. So I'm glad that you are planning out just like a few, because I do think there's something so unique about them these days because they're not always
there's
there.
been times that I only have time for one book before something else is planned or coming along, and I'm like, I don't know where to really go. There's not really a ton of standalones I don't feel like to pick from.
Like, the book that I would think about before or after the poker book as a standalone, I don't know, because the poker book would be a standalone as well. But
Yeah.
it would be, like, based on a relationship that I've had in my life where, like, it spanned 15 years. Like, I just feel like I never got my happily ever after there, and I want to write my happily ever. Yeah.
What you wish the outcome would have been. I love that, though.
I love that,
I think
too.
that there is something, just like, I know a lot of authors are like, well, I wrote it because I couldn't find it. Like, I wasn't finding exactly what I was looking for, or just like I needed to get off my chest. And that's where I feel like I fall into. If I ever like get a book out, it's just because, like, I just have things that I feel like I need to get off my chest. And you know what I mean? And the only way to do it is just like to literally put it out there, like, on paper. And so I commend you, like, because you're already doing it with, I mean, starting right off with his missing piece. Like, I feel like you have found a good therapy
his
for
missing
yourself, a good
piece, I
outlet
mean,
with your
that-
writing.
The fact that happened to me is just so outlandish, and, like, it was really funny because in Goodreads,
That guy's a dick. I'm just gonna keep saying it.
Yeah.
What a
it was
dick
hilarious
that
because
guy
on
is.
Goodreads, like, okay, so I'm an author. I love reading my Goodreads. I will look at the bad. I will look at the good. It doesn't affect me. Now, granted,
Oh, you're a brave soul.
That's because she has balls of steel, folks. I told you, she has some serious knockers
I'm not
on
gonna be
her.
for everybody, and it would be scary if I was, because then that would mean that I'm not staying true to my voice or my own stories. So it's not going to please everybody.
Yes, that's so good for everyone to hear, though.
So
truly.
I always make sure I'm, like, first
good
off in
outlook
the
to
right
have.
headspace for it. Like, you know, it's not like I'm looking at Goodreads
Yes.
when I'm 2 days away from starting my period. That's not happening.
Right, you're like, those hormones are not meant
Yes.
for those comments
But
sometimes.
I'll, like, log in and I'll look at it because overwhelmingly, you know, they're all so positive, and my readers are just some of the greatest people on the face of the planet. And when I doubt myself, or when I think about, like golly, like, only 5 pages read on KU today. Like, why am I even doing this? I will go on Goodreads and I'll read those 5 stars and those 4-star reviews. And it pumps me up again. Like, please, readers, fill it out for authors like me. I'll even read like the 1-star and the 2-star reviews. Usually the 1 stars are just people that are like a little bit, they just don't usually have very many nice things to say.
They're just trolls. That's what I call them, trolls. But sometimes I'm sure you can find, maybe like you're not going to like change your story, but I'm sure there has been good criticism that comes from it. I mean, everyone has to learn and grow.
Hopefully it's a learning experience of some sort.
Piece, like one of my 1-star reviews, they were like, the sentence structure was a complete mess. And I went to my editor and I said, hey, I'm starting to write book 2. I got this feedback on Goodreads. Do I need to research and learn better sentence structure? Is this something that I need to do? Because I am such a baby writer. Like, I don't know anything. And she was like, number 1, get off Goodreads. And I was like, that's not going to happen.
Well, that's not going to happen.
She said, if your sentence structure was a mess, I would have told you about it. Like, that's just your style of writing.
Yeah.
And she's like, you have 1-star reviews saying that, but you have 80 4- and 5-star reviews stating that they love your...
Saying it's incredible. Yeah.
Love the flow.
I love your
style.
flow.
Yep.
I love your flow, and
I connected to it right away.
And I feel like you have such a good, like, unique style of the way you end chapters. I'm always saying that to you. Like, I love your flow, and then the way you end chapters, that's why I get in trouble. Is because I'm like, well, now I have to go read the next chapter, even though I'm exhausted. And then we get to the end of that chapter, I'm like, well, fuck. Now she really has me hooked into it. I feel like every 10 things in my beta, I was like, why is the end of this so good? Like, why?
Like, I just people, they say that my books are like page turners. Like, they pick it up and they finish it in one go because they just keep turning that page.
Yep.
I think
completely
you write
agree.
such great characters. You're character driven, and so we find a connection with these characters, and we just want to see how they all
and you
end
have
happily.
good
so you want to keep going. Yeah. You have
and
it all,
not that that's always a terrible thing, but you do. You have such a good balance of everything. I feel like you figured out a really good, you have nailed your style.
Because it was funny, we were uploading the arc today, and Luna, she emailed me, and she was like, 89 chapters? And I was like, yes, and 2 epilogues.
Yeah, when you sent, so you sent our first beta read, and it was to chapter 40, or 42, and I was like, okay. I was like, let's do it. Then
part 2.
2 minutes later, part 2, and I was like, I wonder what part 2 is. And then it was chapters 40 to 89, and I was like, what the fuck? But I mean, I was ready, but I was like, girl, that's a book.
And it's not even
you wrote a book,
500
but it was so good.
Long.
Okay, but some of the chapters weren't super.
No, yeah, but
they're short,
and it doesn't
and you feel accomplished. I love those short
and
chapters.
And it doesn't feel like 89 chapters.
It doesn't. No,
there are there are some authors totally random, but Sarah J. Maas, where you're like, how are we only on 104 when you know there's 200? You know what I mean? But with yours, it's never you're like, oh my gosh, I get more pissed, the longer I'm reading, and then I'm like, we're running out of chapters, and I love it. That's where I start to panic, because I'm like, oh no, I need more. I always will get more.
And one fun thing I will say about, so here's your couple of tidbits for Dark Cowboy. So with Dark Cowboy, I am naming the chapters. They aren't going to be numbers.
Did you know that that's, I've said it maybe 1 or 2 times on here, that's my most favorite thing ever, and I don't know why authors don't do it more. Only fantasy authors do it.
Single word.
I love it, truly. One of my favorite
rapid fire for
chapter. One of my favorite fantasy series is Crave by Tracy Wolff, and all of her chapters in all 6 books all have different names, or titles, and I love it. So you've just made me
Yeah.
even more happy because I think it's so cool and unique. Because then when you're reading it and you get to the why the chapter's called it, that makes my brain is so happy. I'm like,
Do you write
oh my
the
gosh.
chapter first and then name it, or do you have a
It's
name
kind of
first
been a
and then you write the
combo,
chapter?
like a
Okay.
couple of chapter names, and I'll expand upon this on an Instagram post. Like, I already have posts for this book, like probably enough made through February. Like, I just
You
love
go,
this.
girl.
I love your little
Um,
work in progress updates.
And
I
it's funny
love it.
because I feel like I have to pause right now with ARCs going out and the release of Our Broken Pieces coming up. Like the last one that I posted this week was a spicy one for the first time. And one person was like, "Oh my gosh, Ashley, I like can't take these teasers." And I was like, "Well, it's the last one that you're probably going to get until January."
Yeah, so
I
you
was
better
like-
bite your tongue.
I wanted to have it have a punch, and she's like, "Oh, it did."
Oh, nailed it.
Yeah,
You've nailed
so
it.
Success.
chapter names, like the prologue is named Ashes. The first chapter is Cold, The Boy, Amber, Sleepwalking.
Every time you say another
Yeah.
word, I'm more addicted. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I am so excited. So good. You've done such a good job too,
And
teasing
it's so
it. Every time
hard
you
for
tease
me
it, I'm
because
like,
me,
oh,
when I, like, throughout the Ladies of Back Bay series, I was always kind of like, you know, just like shooting out whatever I wanted to like post. And so people knew the names of books. I didn't
Yeah.
like, you know, care about like when whatever happened. But with this book, I feel like I have to be like so vague and secretive right now. And it's killing my soul because I just want to vomit to all of you guys.
Yeah.
I was saying,
Yes.
you just want to share it with everybody.
Yep.
But that's the first little tidbit I'll give you. Second little tidbit, this will be my first book with 2 covers. We'll have a discreet cover, and then we'll have a man cover that I designed.
Oh,
so
that is
cool.
Yeah.
incredible. Oh, I
Like,
can't
you
wait
already
to see
have
them.
it designed, or you
No,
just
it's-
have it kind
it's
of in your
already
head
in
and you
Canva.
will be doing
I
it, or
just
it's
have
made.
to write the book and have the measurements.
Yes, that's great. I love when there's options
I
for
do too.
covers. I think sometimes, like, there are times I want the model, and then there are times where I want the discreet.
Yeah.
So I love that you're giving the
I
option.
know.
How cool that
Well,
you made
it was like
too.
Adrian and I were talking
Yes.
about covers, and she had done some work on her last book.
Yeah, she does
Yes.
such a good job with her covers. And yeah, she did
Yes.
the Southern submission.
So,
So,
I was like,
oh,
um,
you guys are incredible.
like, can I make a cover? And she's like, you can make it in Canva. Because I sent her a graphic, and I was like, because I just like made it up into like the front cover into like an Instagram post. And I sent her the graphic, and I was like, what
Yeah.
if ... like me and my Gen X ellipses at the end, right? Ever you can
I'm never
pry
getting
it
rid
from
of
my
them,
cold,
so,
dead
and I'm a
hand.
millennial.
Yep.
Yep, dashes, the ellipses. I don't know what more they want from me, but this
Ever.
millennial's not
Ever.
getting rid of them. So you just keep doing
Me
you.
neither.
So she sent me like her Southern submission one, and she's like, I can like teach you how to do it in Canva. It's really easy. And I was like, okay. So then I started playing around with it, and she's like, whenever you upload it to Amazon, you do da 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 da. And like, I was like, oh, well, this is kind of easy.
Yeah.
But I have a
Yeah.
feeling like, I don't know, I feel like deep down, Dark Cowboy is gonna like really kind of elevate me as an author. I feel like I'm gonna gain a
Yeah.
lot more exposure with that book.
Just because of what is like trending right now. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just like, I think even if people, even without like newer dark cowboys, people are just realizing
Yeah.
that they want cowboys. Like, I think for a while they were in the same boat as me. Like, why are we reading cowboys? Like, that's not my cup of tea. And so I didn't read them. But now I feel like on Threads every day I see someone literally every day say, what should be my first cowboy romance? And so I think that you are coming out with it
Yeah.
in such a good time. I
And
think people are
it's-
going to eat
I mean,
it up.
it's definitely nothing I've ever even heard of in any trope.
Well, I think you're going to pull from people that are reading dark romance and maybe wanting to try
And
Cowboy, and this will be a good segue. Or you're going to have people that have read the traditional Cowboy that want to try dark and want to try and go this way, so you're going to meet in the middle.
Or just people that have read, like, just like a couple dark Cowboys that have come out, and people that are waiting for another. So I feel like you literally have so many
I'll tell you right now,
of readers
I'm going
that are
to
going to
pull
come
from
to you.
one other genre that's completely outside of romance.
I'm so excited. I'm like, I am so excited to get my hands on this. You are just incredible. Like, my brain is like rapid firing because I'm just like, we went from contemporary world to this dark Cowboy, but then I can't wait for the second gen. I'm just like, you got it covered. I am, my little reader brain, happy, very happy with everything that's coming.
We aim to please.
I know that's right. Are you doing any conventions or anything in the new year? Or are you trying to do it like any signings, or is there like special edition cover or anything you're trying to do?
I am toying with doing man covers for Ladies of Back Bay. We'll see if it happens.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
And then convention-wise, I'm doing Kiss and Tell in Dallas in June. And then randomly, a little event in my hometown of Lancaster, Pennsylvania popped up. And so...
Oh, fun.
That's not that far from me.
Lancaster, PA, books in September. And it's so funny because, like, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, you're probably like, by the way, like, I know exactly the street. I think that's so cool that you're going back to your roots, though.
I'll get to... I'm taking my daughter as my assistant. And she hasn't been back to PA with me. So we're going to do all the things like Hershey and all that other sort of stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're going to have
a trip.
Yeah.
You got to go to Hershey.
September, so the weather should be pretty chill. We'll probably go out and do Gettysburg and stuff like that too. Make a little trip out of it. See some people.
Oh, so fun, though.
See some of my cousins maybe. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
You can give her the old tour. Like, I used to go and hang out there, and I was over there. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go to that little convention. It's not that far. Like a quick little 2 hour
just shoot across the turnpike.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. It'll be a good little break where after I pop this child out, and then I'm like, hey, by the way, I think I'm ready for like a day of not existing in this world, and we go to romance.
I don't know that it'll be necessarily romance focused.
Yeah, I think I was seeing a couple things like they're gonna have all kinds of people, like all kinds of genres, and which is even cooler because just a random side note, like I feel like I have really been enjoying like plot. Like I love spice. We are never going to get away from that. But I have been like, I think I would be okay. Like I'm going to read a fantasy series in the new year, Brandon Sanderson. I know I'm gonna love it. Like I know that there's really no romance, but I know that it's going to like feed my plot, like fantasy loving heart, because everyone has told me like, you have no idea what's going on. Like you literally think you do, and then you do not 5 books later. And I'm like, well, there's like 18 of them too. So I'm like, I think it'll be fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like this. He's the Sarah of just fantasy. So I think it'll be cool that you can be amongst everyone else. Maybe you can find some new readers that haven't really dove in to the romance world yet. And then there'll be people like me that are like, all I read is smut. I just really thrive off of smut.
I will Kiss and Tell in June because I will have just released Dark Cowboy like 2 weeks prior. So it was kind of perfect timing.
Yes. I know. I'm sad because I was going to PA or like I was gonna assist Adrian, and then I was like, oh, by the way, my due date, and she was like, it's okay, but I was like, no, I was sad. I was going to get to see everybody. I was going to get to see all of you guys. So I will have to come to Texas at some point. I'll drag Britt. Maybe one of our hangouts will have to be in Texas. We meet up in Indiana, and then we're like, by the way, we're flying to Texas. Everyone's like, what? You are so wonderful. This has been so much good information. And just for everyone else, like, I feel like there are a lot of readers and that want to write, and we have like a lot of debut authors that listen. I mean, established too, but I feel like there's always something to learn from everyone. And I feel like I think it's good. Like we were chatting with a debut author, our friend Sam Wild, and she has the same process as you. She is very linear with it. She's like, I need to sit down and write it out. So I feel like it's cool to see and talk to so many different authors and figure out where you guys are lying. And then when you come out of left field and are like, I don't plot, I'm like, what?
It's just a movie.
I overplot. I'm not even writing a book, and there's like so much going on in my notes
really
app.
Crazy.
It's gonna
when
explode.
I write, like I literally watch a movie in my head that I feel like I don't control, and I write whatever I see happening. And what's really weird is when I started writing his missing piece, when I would stop writing, my characters in my head would freeze. Like it was just really weird to me.
I love
that was
it.
nice
I
of
know.
them to give you
Yeah,
a
you're
break.
like, give
They're
me
like,
a pause,
we're waiting
'cause
for
I
our
don't
next
know what
cue.
I'm doing right now. You're like, I have to like go be a mother
know.
and like go
I
to
know.
work, do other things. You guys
But,
have to
like,
chill.
It's been crazy to me, the authors and the readers that I've gotten to meet and like learn about who they are and be part of their little bookstagram world. And I never expected that facet of it. And that has probably been, it's crazy at 44 to find not only a new passion, but a new community of people that you connect with. And so
Yes.
it's just been a crazy,
Beautiful.
amazing year.
This is sometimes it gets a bad rap because we all know that the negative voices are always the loudest, but
Yes.
I love this community. I mean, I have found so many great friends and authors, and just like I think it's the same for like a lot of us readers too. Like I just don't think any of us had any idea when we started that like it would
No.
turn into any of this. Like there's no way when I picked up a book in 2020 that I was like, I'm
Right?
gonna have a podcast and we're gonna talk to the coolest authors, and we're gonna like chat all about like people are gonna care what we have to say about books. But I think it is so cool, the community that is behind
100%.
this, no matter what anyone says. And it's a good tell, like, not that I don't think you're old at all, but like, I feel like sometimes, especially like in my age group though, like we get into this like in our head, like we're behind, you know? I feel like a lot of people my age are like, we are behind. Like, what are we doing with our lives? So I think it's nice to hear like, you didn't start writing until 2 years ago. I mean, it gives a lot of comfort, I feel like, to a
That's
lot of
the
people
thing.
to know, like, you can find
Just
your
go with
passion
it.
and anything you
Anytime.
want
Go
to do
with
at
it.
any
And I
time.
think
Yeah.
in my dedication for our broken pieces, I talk about like, say yes, find your tribe. Like you are enough. Like just grab that bull by the horns and do it. And you never know what a yes will bring,
Yeah. Love it. Thank
Yes.
you so
was
much
so
for
much
coming
fun.
on
Thank you.
and chatting with us. Everyone, you can get the first two right this moment, but also happy release day because book 3 is out now, folks. When
Book
this
3
comes
is
out,
out.
book 3
so
is
crazy.
out. You can have it in your hands. Get them all. Love them all. Trust me,
Amazon
you're going to
and
love
Kindle
them.
Unlimited.
Yes, we are going to have everything linked down below, Facebook group, newsletter, your conventions. We will have all of that linked down below, and we are definitely
Yes.
making you come back on
I
for a Dark
expect
Cowboy.
to like.
It's really
I
not an
can't
option.
wait to discuss Dark Cowboy with you more.
I can't wait to
Yes.
get my hands on that beta. Hurry up.
Tight.
You gotta hurry it up, lady. No. Until next time, guys, I am your host, Father Lib.
And I'm your co-host, Sister Britt.
And that's all she wrote. We will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace and blessings.
Bye, guys. Peace and blessings.